Hey, it's Bram Duffee. I'd like to welcome you back to class. Today we're going to be talking about organizational communication and human behavior. You know, Organizations are everywhere in our lives, and they're where we work and learn and socialize, and often where we seek care and services. So, from multinational corporations to small community groups, organizations shape our daily experiences and our society as a whole. And at the same time, individuals also shape organizations through their actions, decisions, and communication. So, by studying organizational communication, we can gain better insight into these complex relationships. This is kind of cool because it doesn't just help us function better within these systems, but also it helps us be able to positively impact them. So, whether you're planning a career in business or social work, education, or any other field, understanding how communication operates in organizations will be an invaluable skill. Our discussion today will be divided into several parts. First, we're going to talk about why organizational communication matters, both within society and in your personal professional life. And then we're going to define organizational communication in detail, looking at sort of the functions and the way it's structured. Then we'll also talk about the unique cultures and climates that organizations create and the roles they play in shaping individual behavior. From there, we'll examine the emotional challenges that individuals face in the workplace, like stress, burnout, and then balancing work and home life. Um, of course, we'll also talk about ethical issues, power dynamics, and conflict, and how those things influence organizational communication. I want you to feel confident about meeting um, the objectives kind of like this. I want you to be able to explain the role of communication in organizations, and I want you to be able to describe the functions and structures and identify different ethical challenges and strategies for resolving conflict. So, you're, the goal is for you to have a better understanding of how communication affects individuals within organizations and the broader society kinds of factors that influence these systems. Organizations are such a natural part of our lives that we don't always stop to think about how much they influence us. They determine what products and services we have access to, how laws are enforced, and how culture is shaped. So imagine, for example, a government organization that decides to find a public transportation incentive. That decision influences how individuals commute, what environmental policies succeed, and even how cities are designed. Or you might consider a company that creates social media platforms. The way they develop and market these tools changes how we connect with friends and how we share information and even how we understand the world. But while organizations shape individuals, the reverse is also true. Individuals play a role in influencing the organizations that they are participating in. So think about an employee at a tech company that's pushing for more sustainable manufacturing processes, or students who are campaigning for a more inclusive policy on campus or something. These are examples that demonstrate that organizations aren't just static structures, they're dynamic systems, constantly evolving, and that evolvement happens in response to communication and feedback. So, when we take the time to understand organizational communication, we become better equipped to succeed professionally. For example, knowing how organizations operate can help you effectively share your ideas or resolve conflicts with coworkers. It also gives you the tools to evaluate an organization's values and determine whether it's the right fit for you. So, by strengthening your communication skills, you can make a meaningful impact with any organization that you're part of. Organizations can seem like complex, impersonal systems, But at their core, they're created and maintained through communication. So without communication, there could be no coordination of tasks or sharing of resources or alignment of goals. From a communication perspective, organizations are defined by the interactions between their members. And these interactions give life to an organization and connecting the people and the processes in ways that allow them to achieve both individual and their shared goals. So the communication in organizations serves multiple purposes. They're like functions, so the different functions that you might play in an organization. So one role that someone might play in an organization is a production function. And a production function is any kind of communication that helps coordinate or complete tasks. So think of a factory manager that's assigning shifts to workers, or a teacher guiding students through a group project. That would be a production function kind of thing. Another kind of function is maintenance function. Maintenance function helps preserve order and stability within the organization. So this includes things like reminding employees about company policies or hosting ongoing professional training sessions. So that would be like a maintenance function. Another kind of function is an innovation function. An innovation function involves generating new ideas and making changes. So imagine a marketing team that's working to brainstorm a fresh ad campaign, or an academic department that's launching a new online course for the first time. Along with these kinds of functions, communication in organizations also have predictable structure. Traditionally, structures follow a hierarchy where communication moves in one of three directions. One direction might be down. So downward communication flows from supervisors to subordinates. So for instance, a CEO might send an email to employees about an updated company goal. So that's a downward kind of communication. An upward kind of communication, on the other hand, would be something that flows in the opposite direction, like an employee who gives feedback to their managers. So that would be going up. And then there's also horizontal kinds of communication. And that's what we think about when we talk about the kinds of communication that occur between coworkers of equal rank, like between team members who are strategizing about how to get something done. Although formal communication channels like memos, schedules, and meetings are designed and as sanctioned by organizations, there are also informal communication challenges that develop more spontaneously. So, for example, two coworkers who are talking at an office coffee break, that coffee break would be considered an informal type of communication. But both formal and informal channels of communication play important roles in helping organizations function smoothly and also adapt to challenges and changes. Every organization has its own unique identity, and that's often shaped by shared values, traditions, beliefs, and practices. This identity is known as an organizational culture, and it can influence every aspect of an organization. Culture is also fundamental that it touches everyday details like how employees dress, how do they speak, and how decisions are made. So, for example, a startup tech company that may emphasize a casual approach because they're doing stuff like encouraging jeans and t-shirts, using first names to make everyone feel equal, promoting creative brainwashing sessions. This is a kind of culture that is showing, hey, we value openness and collaboration and innovation. So if we take that tech company that we're proposing is like that, let's contrast that idea with a financial services firm maybe, right? So employees might wear tailored suits and adhere to strict protocols for meetings. And this all signals a much more formal culture that's centered on professionalism and precision and much more likely to reinforce that hierarchy. And so when new employees join, they quickly learn what's acceptable and just by observing behaviors and interactions. So, for instance, an intern at the financial services firm might notice that punctuality and meticulous ways of doing a report a certain way is just a highly valued thing. But a new hire at a tech startup company might find that taking risks and pitching bold ideas, even if they're unconventional, well, that's what gains the most respect. But here's the catch. Not every organization's culture matches the reality that's experienced by its members. This is where organizational climate comes into play. Climate refers to how members feel about or interpret the organization's culture. So a company might claim to value inclusivity and transparency. But what if the employee feels uncomfortable pointing out flaws because these suggestions are just never taken seriously? Imagine an employee at a tech company who hears constant messaging about innovation and openness, but notices that all the key decisions are made by upper management and there's no real consultation of staff. That disconnect between what they're saying their culture is, but what their lived climate is in reality as difference, that can lead to frustration and demotivation, or even cause problems with job satisfaction and create turnover. So understanding organizational culture and climate matters deeply for managers and leaders. So, for example, a CEO who listens to employee feedback when rolling out a major policy change, they're demonstrating their commitment to creating not just a positive culture, but also a healthy, supportive climate. Leaders who ignore the need for connection between values and employee experience are really at risk for losing trust. And that's going to affect morale and productivity. When people join an organization, they don't just work there. They integrate themselves into its culture. And this is a process you know as maybe assimilation. And assimilation involves internalizing the values, norms, and behaviors of an organization. So take, for example, a nurse who's joining a well-known children's hospital. On their first day, they might be briefed on compassionate-centered care and family involvement. But over time, they begin incorporating these practices into how they interact with patients. And this allows them to view themselves as not just someone that provides medical care, but also as someone who is part of the larger mission to support families and patients who are in crisis. Assimilation also paves the way for organizational identification. This is where someone's personal values align closely with their organization's values. So picture a teacher working at a school with a strong focus on social justice. If the teacher was already passionate about equity in education, then they might feel deeply connected to that school's mission. This identification can fuel commitment and can take an employee's sense of purpose to another level. But at the same time, it's also challenging when that identification shifts. For instance, if the school started prioritizing test scores or students' well-being in a different way, the teacher might experience conflict, feeling that their values don't align with the organization so much anymore. And so relationships between coworkers and supervisors are also heavily influenced by communication. A key factor in these relationships is empowerment. And empowerment happens when leaders involve employees in decision making or provide the resources and encouragement needed for success. Imagine a supervisor at a design firm who is giving a junior designer not just the freedom to pitch their ideas, but also the training and the tools to turn those ideas into full campaigns. Well, empowered employees feel more motivated and more engaged and committed to the organization's goals. And employees, in turn, can shape their relationships with their supervisors through their own communication strategies. For example, a worker might use in a way to build rapport to offer assistance or show friendliness. And so that ingratiation would show something as a strong effort. Or you might be a confident employee there, right? Like a confident, assertive employee might respectfully share their opinions and stand firm during group discussions. It's like these interactions all demonstrate how individuals contribute to shaping workplace relationships and help create that workplace environment, whether it be collaborative or not. But what happens when workplace expectations clash with reality? Well, for many, this leads to employee dissent. And this is when workers feel a mismatch between what they are promised and what they actually experience. So, for example, an organization might claim to promote work-life balance, but still expects employees to answer emails all night or work on the weekends. So, constructively expressing dissent, such as raising the issue in a team meeting, that might cause or bring positive change. But at the same time, depending upon the organization's culture, it can have the opposite effect. Because we have to think about if concerns are ignored, dissatisfaction might grow, and that leads to deeper conflicts or even someone leaving. So it's good to raise issues, but how do you do it, right? That culture might support doing it at a team meeting, but the culture might also be better supported while you're doing that one-on-one with your manager. Organizations don't just require technical skills. They also require a significant emotion management from their members. This is known as emotion labor, or the effort workers invest in expressing organizationally appropriate feelings. For a retail worker, this might mean that they have to maintain a cheerful attitude, even dealing with a frustrating customer. And so while the customer sees the smiling face, the worker might be suppressing genuine emotions like irritation or exhaustion. This is called surface acting. Over time, service acting can take a toll, and that in itself can cause stress or detachment. Alternatively, a flight attendant, maybe that's practicing deep acting, might actively focus on feeling calm and empathetic as they assist a nervous passenger. And this actually aligns their emotions with the situation. So deep acting often leads to greater authenticity and less burnout compared to surface acting, although it still requires effort. Balancing workplace demands with personal responsibilities often leads to work-life disconnect. Imagine a project manager that's handling a major deadline, but at the same time taking care of a sick child at home. These competing demands can cause stress, resentment, and even guilt. So organizations that offer flexible hours or remote work options can help alleviate some of this pressure, but employees might still feel reluctant to take advantage of these policies for fear of judgment or career repercussions. Organizations also face serious ethical challenges, particularly in managing workplace interactions. For instance, quid pro quo type harassment occurs when someone in a position of authority promises benefits like a promotion or threatens punishment in exchange for sexual favors. A salesperson might face undue pressure from a manager to accept these advantages so that they can secure a key client account. Similarly, a hostile work environment emerges when inappropriate or offensive behavior creates a toxic atmosphere. So imagine sarcastic or belittling comments that target certain workers during meetings. We know that that is going to make them feel excluded or unwelcome. So organizational bullying further highlights the importance of ethical communication. This involves repeated hostile behavior, like spreading rumors or publicly criticizing someone's work or isolating them from opportunities and this targets individuals that may feel powerless to respond. Cyberbullying also is a like modern form of harassment. That's something that takes these same actions to an online format, whether through cruel emails or coordinated attacks on social media. So, either way, organizations have to prioritize creating clear policies to handle these situations, because these kinds of behaviors don't just harm the individuals, but they also damage the organization's reputation and the way it functions. I also want to talk about the broader societal forces that influence cultures today. Globalization is a term. Globalization is a term that means that organizations operate across cultural divides. And this means that there's some requirement for sensitivity and adaptability. At the same time, the new social contract has made it rare for individuals to spend their whole careers with one company, where you have a need for an organization to prioritize flexibility and relationship building. Also, there's this rise out there in something called urgent organizations, and this is an organization that tries to address the customer needs and the market demands more quickly than ever, and it reflects this shift. And so communication within these organizations has to balance speed with thoughtful collaboration, and all this can help avoid pitfalls like mismanagement or poor decision making. Organizational communication is not just about how we share information in the workplace. It's about how we shape and are shaped by the systems that we participate in. So, by understanding the functions and the structures and the challenges of organizational communication, you can better equip yourself to thrive in a professional environment while also contributing to the improvement of that environment. These lessons are not just academic, they apply directly to your career and relationships and personal growth. So I encourage you to think critically about the organization you belong to or organizations, and how you can communicate more effectively to make an impact. Thank you for your attention today, and I look forward to this discussion in our next class.